Chapter 24. The Stranger at the Edge of Sight. It happened on one of the deep nights, the cold still nights at the bottom of winter, when the apartment was silent and the dark was total, and Ethan had pushed his cultivation as far as the wall would let him. He had not meant for it to happen. He had been doing what he always did against the wall, not forcing the coal to grow, only running his attention along the shape of the channel he could not yet forge, learning its path so he would be ready when the method finally came. But that night he was raw with the winter's fear, strung tight by the buying of time and the cornering of the job and the window narrowing toward January. And when he reached inward, the coal answered him with a strange, unsteady eagerness, brighter than usual, as if it had caught his fear and meant to do something about it. And then, for no reason he could name, it flared. Not inward. Outward. The coal at the center of his chest blazed up all at once, and a thread of cold light shot out from him, past the walls of his vessel, past the walls of the room, out into the dark of the sleeping city, reaching, the way a flare reaches, the way a cry reaches. Ethan had never done such a thing, had not known the power could even go outward. He had spent 4 years gathering it in. But that night, frightened and stretched thin, some part of him reached out into the dark with everything he had, as though calling for the help he so desperately needed, the method, the teacher, the anything. And out in the dark, something answered. He felt it, the way you feel a held breath in a room you thought was empty. For one instant, less than a heartbeat, a fraction of a fraction, Ethan's outflung thread of cold light brushed against something, far away, immense, and the something stirred. It was not a person. It was not a place. It was an awareness, vast and slow and old beyond anything the word old could carry, sitting somewhere out past the edge of the world the way a mountain sits past the edge of a village, so large and so distant that it had no business noticing one small thread of light from one small boy in one small room. And it noticed. He felt its attention turn, felt the unbearable glacial weight of it just begin, to swing toward the place where his flare had reached. And in that instant Ethan knew, with a certainty that froze the blood in his small body, that he had felt this attention before. In the cold place without stars. The vast presence that had turned him over like a stone. The thing that had said again. It was the same. Or it was kin to the same. And his reckless outflung thread had just, for one instant, told it exactly where to look. Ethan severed the contact, with a violence that left him gasping. He did it on pure animal instinct, the way you snatch your hand from a stove, slammed the coal shut, dragged the outflung thread back into himself, crushed it all down into the smallest, darkest, most silent point he could make of it, and then lay rigid and breathless in the dark with his heart slamming against his ribs, hiding, the way a small thing hides when a large thing's shadow passes over the grass. He did not breathe. He did not move. He held the coal clenched dark and silent at the center of him and waited, every cell straining, for the glacial attention to finish its turn and find him. It did not. The vast awareness, having brushed against one instant of light and felt it vanish, did not complete its slow swing toward him. Perhaps the flare had been too brief. Perhaps he was too small, too far, too quickly gone. Perhaps the thing was simply too vast to be troubled, the way a mountain is not troubled by one flicker of a match in the village below. The unbearable weight of its attention, half turned, slowed, and stopped, and after a long frozen while began with the same glacial indifference to turn away again. The pressure eased. The hell-breath feeling faded. The night went back to being only a night. Ethan lay in the dark for a long time after, shaking, before he dared even to breathe normally. He told himself in the gray, exhausted hours before dawn that he had imagined it. He knew he was lying. He had spent his whole second life refusing to lie to himself, because a man who races a clock cannot afford comfortable falsehoods, and he did not have the luxury of starting now. But the truth was so large and so cold that he reached for the lie anyway, just to get through the rest of the night. It was the fear, the winter, the strain. The coal flared, that's all. There was nothing out there. I imagined the answer. He held the lie like a blanket and knew it for a blanket, and used it anyway. Because the truth was this: he was not as alone as he had thought. He had built his entire second life on a kind of solitude, the buried man, the secret coal, the lonely road, the comfort that whatever else was true, nobody knew. Nobody was watching. He moved through the world unseen, the one person who knew what was really happening, safe inside his invisibility. And tonight, for one instant, he had learned that the invisibility had a limit too. That his power, the thing he was growing in the dark to save his family, was not silent. That when it reached out, something reached back, something vast and old and connected, somehow, to the cold place without stars and the voice that had sent him here. And that it now knew, however dimly, however briefly, that there was a spark where no spark should be, in a small room in a city, on an earth that was not supposed to hold such things for another 28 years. He had been so focused on hiding from the small watchers, the teachers, the doctors, the neighbors. He had never once imagined a watcher that large. Ethan pulled the lie around himself and did not cultivate again for a long time, and when he finally did, weeks later, he did it smaller and tighter and more silent than ever before, and never, ever again, let the coal reach outward into the dark. But he did not forget. He filed it where he could not lose it, the coldest entry yet in the cold and careful place. Something is out there. Something vast. It is connected to whatever sent me back. And for one instant it felt me. Do not reach out. Do not flare. Whatever you build, build it silent, because you are not the only one who can sense these things, and the others are bigger than you can imagine. The window toward January narrowed on. And Ethan went back to guarding his father's mornings with one more cold fear added to the pile, that he was, in ways he did not yet understand, already being watched from very far away.